Hello class, this is Roberts here, and today we're going to talk about speech organization. Now, you've listened to the previous videos about how to introduce and conclude a speech. This chapter talks about what goes in the middle and how to prepare and plan for your body sections. Let's begin. Today, we're going to list and describe patterns of organizing a speech, talk about how to organize the supporting material, how to use verbal and nonverbal signposts to organize the speech for the ears of others, and develop a preparation outline and speaking notes for the speech. Now, you see, with this figure, it talks about the speech development process, such as developing a topic, talking about determining the purpose, developing a central idea and thesis, generating main ideas, gathering support, organizing the speech practice and rehearsal, and delivery. So let's talk about organizing your main ideas. One organizational pattern you can use is topical organization, or organizing your ideas topically. Now, if you've done a English paper before where you have an introduction, 3 body paragraphs, and conclusion, it's similar to that. You take one big topic and you break it down into 3 pieces. You can also organize those 3 pieces based on primacy. So, for example, the most important information is in the first body section, and then supporting information is in the second and third body sections. Recency. So, for example, with the idea of recency, it's the idea that audiences remember the last thing they heard. So in the speech organizational patterns, the last thing they will actually hear is the conclusion and like the second to the last body paragraph. So if you're going to do it that way, instead of having the most information in the most important information in the beginning of in the first body paragraph, you'll probably save that for the last body paragraph. You can also break it down into complexity. So for example, you can start with the most simple ideas first, intermediate ideas second, and the most complex ideas in the final body paragraph, so the ideas build upon each other. You can also order ideas chronologically. This works well in subjects or topics in regards to history or in narrative speeches. So for example, you start from the beginning of the story or beginning of the ideas to the very end. You can also talk about spatial ideas. So for example, these topics are based on location and direction. So say if you want to talk about your favorite place, you can talk about maybe Disneyland. If you through your speech can be a tour guide to Disneyland, which place would they go to first? And as you describe the park and what's in it, then you will be in essence arranging your speech spatially based on location and direction. You can also talk about cause and effect, and this is useful for persuasive speeches as well. If you're talking about an issue or a problem, society or an organization, and you could talk about what are the causes of the problems and how does it affect the audience or the population that it affects. You can also go the problem solution route, where you can describe the problem that you're addressing and presenting a solution to the audience. So in this class, for example, for our persuasive speeches, we will be using the Monroe's motivated sequence that combines both cause and effect and problem solution techniques. So there are cultural differences in organization. You can read that in the chapters. But in the US, it's more linear in thought. So we have clear introduction, we have our review, we talk about what we're going to talk about, and the recap. So we're going to talk about primacy and recency a little bit more. So for example, the primacy, you say you have 3 body paragraphs or body sections. If you want the most pertinent, important information to be presented first, then you would talk about it in the first body section and then add additional supports in the subsequent sections. You can also talk about complex ideas. That first body section will be the most simple idea, intermediate ideas will be in the second section, and the more complex built upon ideas will be in the latest body section, or the third or fourth body section. You can also go from soft evidence to hard evidence. So softer evidence may be testimonials, the story, or anecdotes, and hard evidence are more facts and stats. And this method relies on recency, so it relies on the audience remembering what they heard the last time. For example, remove this. For example, this example talks about the ADA Act, American Disabilities Act. So soft evidence talks about the definition of a person with disability. Then we have the statistic, and we have the personal illustration or hard evidence. Excuse me. Next up, we have those initial previews and internal previews. We're transitioning into transition words. Those initial previews and internal previews will be found in your introduction within the central idea. So you have your main idea, and then you're going to list your subsections there. Then you have your transitions within the body sections. So transition words such as however, although, furthermore, moreover, also, and the like can help connect ideas together. And because the audience does not have the outline, it's very important to have transitions in between the body sections. So you can, for instance, introduce one section by talking about another section. So for example, if I want to talk about animal adoption, I can say, now that I talked about the statistics about animals who end up in shelters, next I want to talk to you about the alternatives to shelters and how we can help the animals. So I gave indication about what I just talked about and what I will talk about later on. Other verbal transitions, you can repeat keywords and ideas, use transitional words or phrases, just like I demonstrated just now. Enumeration, you can number your transitions. For example, you can say, first I will talk about, second I will talk about, third I will talk about, or hey, you can learn how to adopt an animal in 3 easy steps. 1, do this, 2, do this, and 3, do this. And the internal previews and summaries, like we talked about before. You can also do nonverbal transitions, changing tone with facial expressions, strategically using pauses in between your thoughts. Or if you ask questions, you can also use use pauses to allow the audience to think. Vocal pitch, how high or how low in tone your voice is, and speaking rate. So if you want to go slightly faster, but remain clear, you can do that, or slow your voice down for emphasis. And you can also strategically use movement, gestures, big, small, fast, slow. You can also use movement to indicate transitions and to help with your delivery style. Next up, we have summaries. So in the conclusion, it's going to mirror the internal previews and the listing of the subtopics in the introduction, but those final summaries, you'll have that concluding, finalizing transition, in conclusion, and then you're going to continue on with listing the subtopics. Next, we have the preparation outline. Now, let me mention that I do have templates for you to follow. Make sure that in the templates that you keep the headings in bold. So, for example, introduction, attention getter, very significance, thesis statement. Keep those headings, and you can erase my instructions and put your content in there. The reason why I'm so strict about the headings is because when I play back or when I'm hearing your speech, I need to know exactly where you are in the speech. And when you take away those headings and just have the full sentences, it's very difficult for me to know where you are in your speech. So that's why it's very important, and you want to avoid losing points because of something such as not organizing the outline properly. So here are some pre-writing tools you can use, brainstorming tools you can use as well, clustering, outlining tools, and learning how to use the outlining technique to judge coherence. So does this make sense? Is this organized? Am I clear? Outlining and pre-writing is a really vital step to that goal. If you look in this diagram, you see the three main topics. So you have cyber plagiarism, spread of cyber plagiarism, and solutions. And in this map, you can see some of the topics this speaker is going to talk about. And then, of course, this is just a way to brainstorm ideas and to bring them together. But in order to organize them properly, you do want to put them in outline format. But using maps such as these, cluster maps and things like that, can help you narrow down some of the ideas that are floating. Get those ideas on paper. So there are two types of outlines that you use. You have your preparation outline. So that's the outline you're going to turn into me. It'll be written in a complete sentence in outline form. So I'll provide that format in a template. Use standard outline numbering, Roman numerals, letters, and then regular numbers. It has at least 2 subdivisions. I'll provide those with the template, and proper indents. If you see here, you have your Roman numeral and number.